What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Red Eyes Black Dragon deck profile. So, this deck is a really awesome deck that basically can summon multiple copies of Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, which is the total focus of this particular deck to get out on your side of the field to make your opponent have the worst time of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because every time they breathe, activate an effect, do anything, look at you funny, you get to make them pay 500 to do so, which is insanely fun to do because with one on the field, they only get 16 effects at 8,000 life points because they lose 500 for every single effect they activate, and at 2 they lose 1,000 points for every single effect that they activate, which is extremely good for us and extremely bad for them. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name screwed in a single video, getting a signed card to mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Red Eyes Black Dragons. This card is insanely good and probably one of my favorite cards in the entire game outside of Dark Armed Dragon, and is just a really good card in this deck to be able to use as a vanilla monster to go into all sorts of different plays, and is the central combo piece of the deck. We then play pretty much a 4th copy of Red Eyes Black Dragon in the form of Red Eyes Black Flare Dragon. It is a Gemini monster, but it's pretty much a vanilla monster that is treated as a Red Eyes Black Dragon. Kinda, because this card is treated as a normal monster while face up on the field or in the graveyard, and when this card is normal summoned to your side of the field, you can normal summon it an additional time. You don't have to tribute for it, and it gains the following effect. If this card inflicts battle damage or during damage calculation is performed, at the end of the battle phase, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to this card's original attack, which is 2,400, which is pretty good. You don't need any more than one of it, but it's a really good card to play as a 1-of. We then play a single copy of the Dark Magician, so we can go into Dragoons. You gotta play Dragoons because it is a Red Eyes deck, and it's just so easy to go into Dragoons in this deck. All you have to do is basically link into an Anaconda, hard draw Red Eyes Fusion, use it with Insight, search it to hand, and it's just really easy, so you gotta play at least 1 copy of Dark Magician. Plus, it's Yugi's ace monster, and it's like the 2 best friends with Red Eyes and Dark Magician, you know? And then we play 2 copies of Red Eyes Alternative Black Dragon. Red Eyes Alternative Black Dragon cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by attributing 1 Red Eyes monster from your hand or field, and you can only special summon this card once per turn this way. And if this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by a card effect, by your opponent's card effect, you can target 1 level 7 or lower Red Eyes monster in the graveyard, except another copy of this card, and special summon it. And if it was a Red Eyes Black Dragon that you special summon it, you double its attack to 4,800. This card is insanely good, but you just want to play it as a 2-of because you don't want to brick with it, and playing it at 2 is totally fine. We then play 3 copies of the Txne Spirit Vashuda. Vashuda can special summon it to your side of the field if you don't control an effect monster, which is a really insanely good effect just to get you basically a level 7 monster that you can use for multiple link plays. Play a single copy of Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. Darkness Metal Dragon is really good because you get to special summon this card from your hand by banishing 1 face-up dragon monster you control, and you can only special summon Darkness Metal once per turn this way, and then during the main phase you can special summon a dragon monster from your hand or graveyard except another copy of yourself, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn, but that's totally fine because you're only ever going to really need to use this card's effect once anyways. Because this card did get an errata, it's still really good to play in this deck, but you really only need 1 copy of it. We then play 2 copies of Noctovision Dragon. Noctovision Dragon is really good because when your opponent activates effect that targets face down cards you control, you can quick effect banish this card from your graveyard, negate the effect, and also you're putting out target face down cards you control with card effects for the rest of the turn. And it also has the ability that you can use each of the following effects of this card once per turn, that if a Dark Dragon monster is special summoned to your side of the field, hint, you get to special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field, or if this card is sent to the graveyard as a link material, you get to draw a card, which is pretty good as well. But I love playing this card because every time you special summon a Red Eyes, you can special summon this card from your hand and essentially get a Flare Metal on your side of the field just with the greatest of ease. So you want to play this card as a 2-of in the deck. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Wyvern. If this card's in the graveyard and you didn't normal summon this turn, you can manage it to special summon a Red Eyes monster from your graveyard except another copy of itself. Usually send this card to graveyard off your copy of Red Eyes Insight, so it's a pretty good card. You don't normal summon a lot in this deck. You only play really 1 normal summon in the whole deck, so this card's really good to play as a 1-of. We then play 3 copies of Black Metal Dragon, that if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you get to add a Red Eyes, or excuse me, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to add a Red Eyes card from your deck to your hand, and also has the ability you can target a Red Eyes monster you control and equip this card from your hand or field to that target and it gains 600 attack, but sending it to the graveyard is just really good from the field because you get to add that copy of a Red Eyes card from your deck to your hand, like a copy of Red Eyes Fusion, your copy of Red Eyes Insight, your copy of any of your Red Eyes traps. It's just an overall insanely good card. We then play 2 copies of the Black Stone of Legend. Black Stone of Legend is the only normal summon in this deck. You get to normal summon it to your side of the field, tribute it, and then be able to special summon a level 7 or lower Red Eyes monster from the deck. It helps you go into your copy of Flare Metal extremely easily, and with it being the only real normal summon in the entire deck, it's just really, really, really good. It also has the ability that you can shuffle it into the deck, or you can shuffle a copy of a Red Eyes monster into the deck that is a level 7 or lower monster, and then you get to add this card back to your hand, but you can only use either of its effects once per turn. So it's a really good 2-of in the deck, but I wouldn't play it at any more than 2. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn because you're trying to get your Red Eyes monsters onto your side of the field or level 7 monsters on your side of the field as quickly as possible to be able to go into some really insane plays in this deck, to go into multiple copies of Flare Metal Dragon, 1 copy of Called by the Grave, because Called by the Grave is just really good stopping your opponent from going off. I really like drawing Called by the Grave with a copy of the Black Stone of Legend because then my opponent thinks, oh, I can Ash the Black Stone of Legend, and then you Call by the Grave them, and it's like, oh, never mind. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Fusion because you can use this to go into Dragoons, 1 copy of Magical Eyes Fusion because you can go into your copy of your Red Eyes Dark Dragoons again to play a second copy of it, which is pretty cool. We play 2 copies of Dragon Shrine. Now, Dragon Shrine is a new addition to this particular build. It helps out a lot because you can send a particular Red Eyes that you need to the graveyard to then revive it with a bunch of different cards we play in the deck. And it also works really well with cards like your copies of your Black Stone of Legend to be able to shuffle stuff back into the deck, because sometimes you will run out of your Red Eyes in the deck for different effects, so you do need the Dragon Shrine to be able to shuffle stuff back. Then we play 3 copies of Red Eyes Insight. Red Eyes Insight is really good in the deck too because it lets you send a Red Eyes monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard to add a Red Eyes spell or trap directly from your deck to your hand. Do you hear a Foolish Burial and a Search on 1 card? Yes, please. I think I'll take 3. We then play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. This card lets you draw into any particular card that you need. It's really good. You get to draw 2 and banish a dark from your hand. It can be your copy of the Black Stone of Legends, can be a Vashuda, can be a Dark Magician, can be anything that you particularly need. This card's got you, and it's a really amazing card. You then play 3 copies of Return of the Dragon Lords. Return of the Dragon Lords is really good because it lets you target a level 7 or 8 dragon monster in the graveyard, special summon it, and it's not once per turn. And if a dragon monster is going to be destroyed by a card effect, you can manage this card from, if it's going to be destroyed by a card effect or by battle, you manage this card from your graveyard instead, which is insanely good. We then play for the last 3 spells. I've actually thrown in 3 copies of Super Polymerization in this particular build because this card is really good in the deck because you can use any of your dark monsters on your side of the field plus a monster on your opponent's side of the field to be able to go into your copy of Starving Venom, or you can use a copy of 2 of your opponent's monsters to go into Mud Dragon. It helps you get rid of your opponent's copies of Dragoons, which is really nice, because if your opponent leaves the Dragoons and an Anaconda on the field, you can then activate this to go into a copy of Starving Venom, and then go for your play from there. By just normal summoning a monster, you can then link away the Starving Venom and go for your own Anaconda with a monster you normal summon, like a Black Metal Dragon, get you a Search, and get you an Anaconda that you can then use its effect to be able to immediately go for a Dragoons of your own, which is a really insanely good effect. So that's it for the monster, or that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're only going to be playing 3 traps, kind of like normal, which is a single copy of Fang and Chain. Fang and Chain is really good because it lets you target a Red Eyes monster. It can attack twice, which is pretty cool during each battle phase. And you send this card to the graveyard to target an effect monster your opponent controls and be able to equip it to that Red Eyes monster. And if you do, that Red Eyes monster's original attack and defense become equal to that monster's original attack and defense. So it's basically a spot removal, which is pretty good. You play a single copy of the Return of the Red Eyes. This card, if you control a Red Eyes monster except a Red Eyes B chick, you get to target a normal monster in your graveyard and special summon it to your side of the field, and if this card in your possession is destroyed by opponent's card effect, sent to the grave, you target a Red Eyes monster in your graveyard and special summon it as well. It's really good, and you don't use each of the effect this card once per turn, so this card is every single turn you're getting to revive a Red Eyes, which is pretty cool. And then we play a single copy of the Red Eyes Spirit. This card is essentially a trap version of Monster Reborn for Red Eyes. It is searchable, but you just want to play a single copy of it because it is searchable for Red Eyes Insight, and it can help you out a lot to go into Flare Metal. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. Why would you not play 3 copies of this card? Basically, every time your opponent breathes, looks at you funny, does anything, flinches one of their fingers, something, you're going to be able to make them pay 500, which is insanely good. But basically, every time they activate an effect, you get to make them pay 500 life points, which is really cool. It is mandatory that they have to pay the 500, which is really cool as well. And then when this card has XZ materials, it cannot be destroyed by card effect, and you can also detach a material from this card to target a Red Eyes normal monster in the graveyard and special summon it. So basically, if you can make 1 and then you can get another Red Eyes on your side of the field, if you have 3 Red Eyes on your field, you make 1 of these, then you can essentially detach a material, summon another Red Eyes like Flare, Black Flare from the graveyard, and then immediately go for a second one and then detach a material, and you get a 3rd Red Eyes on your side of the field. Or if you have 2 level 7s and a Red Eyes in the graveyard, you can get 1 of these and then a Red Eyes from the graveyard back on your field. This card is insanely good, and I love the basis of this deck being around this card. We then play a single copy of Big Eye because it's going to take your opponent's monsters, which is really good for link summoning, and it's an overall really good card. You play 2 copies of Dragoons because it can pop cards, it can tank through stuff because it can't be destroyed by battle or can't be destroyed by card effects or targeted by opponent's card effects or targeted with enemy card effects. And during the main phase, you can target up to 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field and pop them that are monsters and inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the monsters. And then also, if it negates something, they can negate anything, and then you pay 1,000, or you get 1,000 extra attack points on this, so it goes to 4k. It's just ridiculous. The card is really good. You play a single copy of Starving Venom because it's a super poly target, Mud Dragon because it's also a super poly target, and it's really good in this deck just to be able to go for a Mud Dragon. And then for the links, we're playing a single copy of Access Code because Access Code can pop multiple cards, Unicorn because it can spin stuff, Fiend because it can pop spells and traps, IP because you can go into your copy of your Unicorn really easily with this card and be able to spin something on your opponent's turn. 1 copy of Anaconda because it helps you go into your copy of your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and it also doesn't want Bun Sun. 1 copy of Erratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres because it helps you with all your dragon monsters to go into this card. And then a single copy of Link Reba because you can link away a copy of a Black Metal Dragon or a copy of, say, your copy of the Blackstone of Legend that gets negated, but you get to keep it on the field. Like, you have a lot of options with Link Rebo in this deck, which is why you play it as a one-of. So that's it for the deck, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. I really like it that we have a rank 7 build of this deck where you're basically focusing around getting your Flare Metal on your side of the field as quickly as possible, and then basically letting your opponent play and going, we'll go. And you do usually want to go first with this particular build, so you can go into Flare Metal extremely quickly and make your opponent have to pay for everything. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.